Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Lieutenant Commander James T. Kirk and Lieutenant Spock shared a mind meld in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3's finale, yet the Vulcan science officer withheld a great deal of vital, personal information from his future best friend. Spock suggested a mind meld with Kirk so that they could act in perfect unison when firing the USS Enterprise and USS Farragut's phasers at Skygowan. Kirk and Spock's coordinated phaser blast opened a portal that allowed Captain Marie Battle and Captain Christopher Pike to defeat the Vesta. At the end of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3's finale, a triumphant Kirk and Spock dedicated themselves to their newfound friendship over a game of 3D chess. Spock teased Kirk about his knowledge of Jim's questionable past behavior on Orion's second moon. Kirk, in turn, horrified Lieutenant Lon Noonien Singh because James knows all about her dance lessons with Spock, which led to their romance blooming. To Lon's chagrin, Kirk joked his memory is like a steel trap. Still, whatever Kirk learned about Spock from their mind meld, the Vulcan's expertise and mental discipline shielded a lot of crucial information from Jim. Despite their mind meld, Kirk will not learn these significant details about Spock's life until Star Trek, the original series. Lieutenant Commander Kirk learned nothing from their mind meld about Spock's broken engagement with Turing. Spock and Turing were promised since childhood and engaged until Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 5, Charade. Turing called off her engagement to Spock, who immediately pursued a relationship with Nurse Christine Chapel. Despite the frequency of Kirk's visits to the USS Enterprise, Jim's first time aboard came after Turing broke things off with Spock. Captain James T. Kirk won't learn about Turing being Spock's betrothed for another half-dozen years after Star Trek Strange New Worlds. In Star Trek, the original series Season 2's Amok Time, Spock will be in the grip of Pon farr and returns to Vulcan to face his fiancée. Turing will choose Kirk as her champion in the Kal-if-Fee ritual, where Spock will kill Kirk and finally end his relationship with Turing for good. From their mind meld, Lieutenant Commander James T. Kirk doesn't learn, and quite possibly never finds out, that Commander Michael Burnham Sonequa Martin Green is Spock's sister. Star Trek Discovery retconned Burnham as Spock's adopted sister who grew up with him on Vulcan. As first officer of the USS Farragut, it's likely that Kirk has heard of Michael Burnham, who was infamously Starfleet's first mutineer and was imprisoned during the Klingon War. Burnham redeemed herself and regained her rank as commander, then is believed to have died at the Battle of Zahia in 2258. Star Trek The original series Season 2's Journey to Babel reveals how little Captain Kirk actually knew about Spock's past. There is no reason why Kirk could ever connect Spock to Michael Burnham, and all of this information was never conveyed by Jim's mind meld with Spock. Directly tied to Michael Burnham, Lieutenant Commander James T. Kirk could not and did not learn the truth about the USS Discovery from his mind meld with Lieutenant Spock. According to Starfleet's official records, the USS Discovery was destroyed with all hands at the Battle of Zahia after successfully saving the galaxy from Control, Section 31's rogue threat assessment AI that wanted to commit galactic genocide. The truth, however, is that Commander Michael Burnham donned the Red Angel time suit and led the USS Discovery and her crew 930 years into the future to prevent Control from gaining sentience, thus saving the 23rd century galaxy. Lieutenant Spock and Captain Christopher Pike Anson Mount redacted what really happened to the USS Discovery and Commander Burnham from Starfleet's records, although Admiral Robert April Adrian Holmes did learn the truth. Even when he becomes captain of the USS Enterprise, however, Kirk has no reason to ever question the events of the USS Discovery's destruction, which has no relevance to him or his 5-year mission, since he can't connect Discovery to Spock. At the beginning of Star Trek, the original series Season 2's Journey to Babel, Captain Kirk meets Vulcan Ambassador Sarek Mark Leonard and his human wife, Amanda Grayson Jane Wyatt, for the first time. Kirk and Dr. Leonard M.C. Coy DeForest Kelly are both stunned when Spock admits that Ambassador Sarek is his father. This is actually remarkable considering how famous both Spock and Sarek are within Starfleet and the United Federation of Planets. Since Kirk never found out about Spock's personal life besides Lon from their mind meld, Jim apparently never asked his best friend about his past and childhood on Vulcan. Or, if Kirk did, Spock was very careful about what information he disclosed. Ambassador Sarek James Frain appeared in Star Trek Discovery, but Spock's father hasn't appeared in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This maintains Star Trek canon that father and son are estranged over Spock's decision to join Starfleet instead of the Vulcan Science Academy. Lieutenant Kirk also didn't come aboard the USS Enterprise for the first time until after Amanda Grayson's Mia Kirshner last appearance in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 5, Charades. If Amanda or Sarek appear in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Seasons 4 or 5, it would have to be in an episode without Paul Wesley guest starring as Jim Kirk to maintain Star Trek, the original series canon. Completing Captain Kirk's complete ignorance of Spock's family in spite of their mind meld, Jim never learns about Spock's older half-brother, Sibok Lawrence Luckenbull, until Star Trek V, The Final Frontier in 2287, 26 years after Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. Sibok is the product of Ambassador Sarek's love affair with a Vulcan princess. The brilliant Sibok lived with Sarek and Spock, and possibly Michael Burnham for a time, before he left and embraced emotionalism instead of Vulcan logic. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1, Episode 7, The Serene Squall, revealed that Sibok became a criminal named Severius, who is being held in a Vulcan prison, with Turing as his warden. Sibok is also married to a space pirate named Captain Angel Jesse James Keitel. Captain Kirk had no clue about Sibok being Spock's half-brother until the Vulcan heretic hijacked the USS Enterprise in his mad quest to find God George Murdoch on Shakari, the fabled Eden beyond the Great Barrier at the center of the galaxy. Despite his brief Season 1 cameo, Sibok has not resurfaced in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. If Spock's brother does make his long-awaited comeback in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Seasons 4 or 5, it would have to be in an episode without Lieutenant James T. Kirk appearing as a special guest star. Captain James T. Kirk and Commander Spock share one of the most legendary friendships in science fiction. They've crossed galaxies together, faced God-like beings, and even experienced the most intimate of Vulcan bonds through the rare and profound practice of the mind meld. Yet, despite that seemingly unbreakable psychic connection, Spock remains a master of restraint. Vulcans are adept at controlling which memories and emotions surface during such exchanges, and Spock, ever disciplined, has guarded pieces of himself even from his closest friend. There are still parts of Spock's past, his inner conflicts, and his secret longings that Kirk has never seen. And perhaps Spock prefers it that way, for if every mystery were revealed, the delicate balance of logic and loyalty between them might shift forever. Here are 5 Spock secrets Kirk still doesn't know after their mind melds. 1. The depth of his resentment toward Sarek. Spock's complicated relationship with his father, Ambassador Sarek, has always cast a long shadow over his life. Kirk knows some of the broad strokes: their disagreements, Sarek's disappointment in Spock's choice to join Starfleet, the undercurrent of disapproval that seemed to hang between them. But Kirk does not know the depth of Spock's inner resentment. Beneath the surface calm of Vulcan discipline lies a child who grew up feeling as though no achievement would ever be enough. Sarek's silence was louder than any reprimand, and Spock's victories, admission to the Vulcan Science Academy, mastery of logic, even service aboard the flagship of the Federation, were still diminished by his father's cold gaze. Even during the episodes of reconciliation, Spock has never truly shared with Kirk the bruises of that emotional distance. In a mind meld, he could have revealed the countless times he replayed his father's disappointment in his mind. But Spock is careful. He knows Kirk's instinct to protect, and revealing this wound would invite sympathy Spock is not prepared to accept. To his secret longing for a life without logic, Spock has always insisted that logic defines him, that his Vulcan half must prevail over the chaotic impulses of his human side. Yet there's a secret he has carried since childhood. He sometimes wonders what it would be like to surrender to emotion completely. Kirk has glimpsed flashes of this in moments of crisis: Spock's laughter under alien influence, his bursts of anger when crewmates are in danger, his rare but undeniable smiles. But he does not know how often Spock imagines a parallel life where he allows his human heart free rein. A life where he could love without restraint, argue without shame, and even laugh as loudly as Dr. McCoy. Spock hides this not because he fears judgment, but because to confess it would be to admit how fragile his Vulcan self-control really is. A single mind meld could never fully expose this fantasy, because it exists in fleeting daydreams that Spock quickly locks away. Yet, somewhere deep inside, Spock wonders whether Kirk himself might be the person who tempts that hidden side to emerge. 3. His guilt over Sirach's philosophy. To the outside world, Spock is the very embodiment of Sirach's teachings, the Vulcan philosopher who saved his people from self-destruction through logic and peace. But Spock harbors a guilt Kirk has never sensed. He sometimes feels unworthy of the philosophy he upholds. Though Spock practices logic with diligence, there are moments when anger flickers in him like a flame. Moments when he imagines a violent solution, when he despises an enemy so deeply he must restrain his hands. These moments haunt him afterward, leaving him questioning whether he has betrayed Sirach's legacy in thought, if not in action. Kirk, ever pragmatic, would remind Spock that such impulses are part of being alive. But Spock's Vulcan side cannot forgive such lapses. His guilt festers silently, tucked away where no one, not even through a mind meld, can reach unless Spock permits it. That guilt is a burden he believes is his alone to carry. For his true feelings about mortality, Kirk has often declared that he does not believe in a no-win scenario. Spock, ever logical, has faced mortality with outward acceptance. Yet his stoicism masks a deeper truth. Spock fears death, not for himself, but for what it would mean to those he leaves behind. Vulcans live longer than humans, and Spock has quietly calculated the inevitability that he may one day outlive Kirk, McCoy, and the rest of his human crewmates. This knowledge weighs on him far more heavily than he lets on. He has imagined the bridge of the Enterprise empty of laughter, the captain's chair occupied by someone else, and the silence of living centuries with the ghosts of friends echoing in memory. It is a fear he will never confess aloud, for fear of appearing weak. Even during a mind meld, Spock shields this fear with layers of logic, like walls around a fragile truth. To reveal it would be to betray just how much Kirk means to him, not only as a captain, but as a friend whose loss would shatter him. 5. His unspoken admiration for Kirk himself. Perhaps the greatest secret Spock has kept hidden, even in the most intimate of mind melds, is the sheer magnitude of his admiration for James T. Kirk. Spock has expressed loyalty, trust, and respect openly, but admiration, bordering on awe, remains concealed. Spock sees in Kirk a blend of qualities Vulcan logic cannot explain. Recklessness that somehow succeeds, instinct that proves correct when data fails, compassion that inspires loyalty in others. To Spock, Kirk is living proof that emotion and intuition can be as powerful as logic and reason. This truth unsettles him because it undermines the Vulcan teachings that have shaped his life. At times, Spock has wondered if his own existence aboard the Enterprise is less about duty and more about proximity to Kirk's brilliance. But this secret admiration stays locked away. Spock knows Kirk would laugh it off or turn it into camaraderie, missing the profound reverence beneath the words. So Spock keeps it hidden, content to let his actions, his sacrifices, his steadfastness, speak where words cannot. Why Spock keeps his secrets. The irony of the mind meld is that it can unite two beings in ways that words never could. Yet it is not a full unveiling of the soul. Spock remains the gatekeeper of his own thoughts, filtering what Kirk is allowed to see. It is not deception, but protection, both of himself and of their friendship. Kirk thrives on openness, on bold gestures, and spoken truth. Spock thrives on restraint, on carefully measured fragments of revelation. Together, they form a balance neither could achieve alone. The secrets Spock keeps are not barriers but the silent threads that preserve their bond, allowing them to function as captain and first officer, as brothers, as the dual heart of the Enterprise. Perhaps one day, when logic and time have loosened his restraint, Spock may allow Kirk a glimpse of these hidden truths. Until then, The Vulcan's secrets remain his own, quiet, unspoken, but ever present in the space between them. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay with us.